Hello, my dear viewers. Welcome. My name is Fred Mushiri. I'm a medical doctor based in Kenya. And I'm reporting from the DRM studio, or Dr. M studio, standing for Disease Reversal and Mitigation. I wish to educate my viewers on reversing conditions you never believed could be reversible. And I'll be presenting a topic among a series of presentations that will become available to you once you like, share, and subscribe. Today's topic is interesting, especially for nursing mothers and also for those anticipating to have babies in future. The title of our topic is, when should we wean our babies? When should we wean our babies? And the answer we give to this question will determine the foundation of health we give to our babies. Depending on what age you wean your baby, it might set up your baby for early diseases, including asthma, allergies, type 1 diabetes, autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, and heart conditions. And this is how important this question is. And I know some mothers already have the answers. Some could be saying 6 months, others could be saying 1 year, and still others could be saying a year later. But hold your breath until we have this discussion. Now, what is the meaning of weaning? There is a scientific definition of weaning, and includes the following important words. Now, they say it's the gradual process of introducing solid feeds to a baby's diet with an aim to supplementing the mother's milk. And hence, it should be a gradual process. It should not be hastened. Now, it's also a natural transition from exclusive milk feeding to introducing family feeds in the baby's diet. The most important words here are a natural transition. Wait for nature's hints to be able to wean your baby. No mother should force their baby to wean. It should be natural. Now, that is the scientific understanding. There's also a biblical understanding of the timelines best to wean a baby. And we'll quote a couple of verses here to show when different child characters were weaned in the Bible. Now let's start with Genesis chapter 21 verse 8. Concerning the child Isaac, it is said that Abraham, his father, held a great feast for Isaac once he was weaned. And we can get from that text that the baby or the child Isaac could have been of good age to understand or to appreciate the father was making a feast for him. And therefore, the age of weaning for Isaac could have been much later than most mothers today wean their babies. Now, let's have another text to corroborate the same view that biblical children were weaned much later than modern children are weaned. Now, in the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 1, verse 24, concerning Hannah, we are told that when the baby Samuel had been weaned, his mother took him up with her to the mountain, to the place of God where the high priest Eli was. And the mother also took a number of items with her, including 3 bullocks, and we can reasonably assume that the baby Samuel, or the child Samuel, walked himself up after his mother all the way to the shrine where the high priest was. And later, the mother climbed down the mountain without the child. And we want to believe that the high priest was not left to be changing diapers for the child. So Samuel could have been of a good age to be able to receive instructions and also to undertake certain tasks. Another Bible verse that also corresponds with the aforementioned Bible verses is Hosea chapter 1 verse 8. Concerning the wife of Hosea, we are told that when the child Loruhama was weaned, she conceived and bare a son. And with all due respect to a prophet of God, we want to respectively imagine that he is a good example of family planning. Therefore, he could not have allowed his wife to conceive unless the boy before him, Loruhama, before the pregnancy, was of good age. And hence the biblical timelines for weaning are at a much later stage than most mothers wean their babies today. Now, let's ask another fundamental question. Who determines when a baby should be weaned? Now, I'll give you options. Is it the mother or the baby? Or is it the World Health Organization? Or is it the American Academy of Pediatrics who dictate that the age of weaning should be 6 months? I will not go along with the World Health Organization, neither the AAP. I would rather stick to nature, because I know babies will always give you a hint of when they would want to be weaned. Now, we are going to look at some maternal factors that determine when weaning should be done, but these factors are not convincing. Remember, they are maternal factors. The most convincing factors ought to be the baby factors. Mothers who are nursing give certain reasons why they should wean their baby. And one of the not so convincing excuses are they want to go back to work or they want to go back to school. And you wonder whether they knew that they were carrying a responsibility of having a pregnancy and later looking after the baby to nurse them until they are of age. Yet, after delivery, at around 6 months, and others even before, and others a few months later, they want to give off their kid to the grandmother or to a sibling to take care of them as they go back to school, therefore depriving the baby of a fundamental factor of nutrition. The other reasons given by mothers why they're weaning their babies early is desire for freedom. They just want to be free. They want to join up with their peers. They are missing that period when they want to be with their peers. They want to go for parties. They want to join in nightclub music. Therefore, they want to be free. And this is unfair for their kids. So you agree those are not very good reasons for weaning babies. Another reason that is given by mothers as to why they're weaning their babies early, there are those who complain of low or no milk production. Now, it could be justified if the low milk or no milk production is as a result of sickness or death of a mother. But there are other reasons that contribute to low milk production which should be avoided. For example, during the time of lactation, when the mother is breastfeeding her baby, she should develop bonding and connection and attachment. And how do you do this? Look at your baby, enjoy the baby while it's breastfeeding. Maintain eye contact. Meditate about the baby. Think about the milk letdown. And this will increase the milk supply. The problem with most mothers is they'll take their phone, be chatting, be looking at the television, be engaging their minds in other activities while they're breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is a time of connection. If you do not connect to your baby while you're breastfeeding, now that one will lead to low milk production because milk production is hormonal. If you think about breastfeeding, if you think about your baby, you release hormones that continue to increase your milk supply in the breast. The other reason why mothers could have low milk production could be stress. And during lactation, mothers ought to be stress-free. Therefore, the spouses, the husband, should also ensure that the mother has peace during the time of lactation. Because if you deny them peace, it will also affect their milk production. Therefore, the mother should look for any activity that is going to provide them peace so that they can have adequate milk for the baby. Now, another reason why mothers also complain of low milk production is bad nutrition. Synthesis of breast milk depends wholly or largely on good nutrition. And therefore, to be able to get quality food, highly nutritive food, it's an important stimulant for milk production. Now, most babies could be born to mothers of low socioeconomic background who are not able to buy food, who are not able to buy food even during pregnancy, and late after delivery, they are not able to buy quality food. And this compromises the milk production. And therefore, it denies the baby sustainable milk in the period of lactation. Another reason given by mothers why they want to wean their babies is merely cosmetic. So they will say that, or they believe, or they have been told that continuous breastfeeding will deform the breasts. And just for looks, because they do not want to offend or they want to appear good to the roadside admirers, they cease breastfeeding so that their breasts may look up. And it's sad and unfortunate because you want to create an impression to a roadside admirer or a man who is external to you. Remember, this baby is your image. This is a duplicate of your genes. Why would you deny your baby good nutrition in order to improve looks for a roadside admirer? It defies logic. Now, the other reason given by mothers why they are weaning may have to do with if the same mother conceives another pregnancy. And hence, During the second pregnancy, the milk at some point becomes sour and tasteless for the baby. Therefore, the baby may be discouraged from taking it. Now, those who are breastfeeding should take wise decisions on birth control so that you do not carry another pregnancy while you're still continuing to breastfeed. And that is very important. Now, let's come to the second part, which is the most convincing, and we'll be looking at the baby factors that dictate when the baby itself should be weaned. So we call them the baby factors or the pediatric factors that determine the time or the period of weaning. Now, one of the natural hints the babies give us to tell us that they are inviting to be weaned is the eruption of a set of molar teeth during their first birth. The eruption of the molar teeth may delay. It may happen at 13th month or up to the 16th month. But in most babies, once the molar teeth erupt, they enable the salivary duct where most of the saliva comes from. That is the gland below your ear. It's called the parotid gland. And there is a duct moving all the way to where the molar has erupted. That duct opens up. And the duct and the gland releases a lot of saliva. So the baby will start drooling a lot. And thus saliva is important because it contains digestive enzymes such as ptyalin or amylase for digestion of starch. And at that particular time also, the baby has chewing behavior. So they're trying to chew, and that is a good indicator that that baby is ripe for being introduced to other feeds. Remember, the molars also will be important for chewing the food. I think it is unwise to introduce feeds to the baby if they cannot chew, because food has to be mixed properly with saliva for digestion to be effective. Remember, digestion starts in the mouth. Another natural cue the baby gives us to know when to wean them is movement. There is increase in baby movement. And because digestion is enhanced by movement, let's wait for active babies. And it's only active babies who can digest food properly, because movement enhances digestion. This also applies to adults. Once you have eaten, if you want to ensure you have good digestion, take a walk, because movement enables digestion. There's something we call the navel or the belly button. It is where the umbilical cord was cut. The umbilical cord has a connection to the liver and also to your urinary bladder. Now, when you move the abdominal muscles, and you should wait for babies to move the abdominal muscles. When you move the abdominal muscles, you also move the organs in the abdomen. And that movement also enhances digestion. Therefore, it's unwise for mothers to feed their babies with foreign feeds. I'm saying foreign because any other food apart from breast milk is foreign to the baby, and it can irritate the baby. It can also cause inflammation of the digestive system of the baby. So it's foreign food. So any mother who introduces foreign food to a baby who is not active or who is not moving, you increase inflammation, you destroy the gut barrier, and you set your baby up for early allergies, diseases such as asthma, diabetes type 1, autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis, because you make the gut of the baby to be leaky, and therefore undigested food particles can easily leak into the bloodstream and cause allergies and asthma. The baby should also have coordination. This is another natural cue that they are ready for weaning. So the baby will be reaching out for food, can catch the food and take it to the mouth. That's also another indicator that your baby is ready for weaning. They develop interest for food. They look for food. When they see you eating, they move their eyes with the movement of your food from the plate all the way to the mouth. So they are showing interest in the food that you're eating. So meaning, at that juncture, they're intelligent to look for food. Now, another cue should be voluntary swallowing ability. You know, a baby should have a voluntary swallowing ability. That's also a natural cue that the baby is ready for weaning. Some mothers will force their babies to swallow because they do not know how to swallow. After the baby has chewed its food, they should move it around the mouth for very good mixing with saliva and then initiate for themselves a swallowing activity. I have witnessed forceful feeding among many mothers. In fact, they stand behind their baby and hold and cup their hands and hold the uji or the foodstuffs in their hands with their cupped hands as they force the baby to eat from their cupped hands. That's forceful feeding and also forceful swallowing. Swallowing should be voluntary and it should be self-initiated. Now, the other cue that we are supposed to follow to be able to tell whether the baby is ready for weaning is the tightening of sphincters. Now, there are three sphincters we need to look out for. Sphincters are valves or gates at various points of the alimentary canal. They are valves that prevent food from moving out of the section it's supposed to be confined in. For example, we have a sphincter or a gate or a valve between the esophagus and the stomach. It is called the cardiac sphincter. We also have another sphincter between the stomach and the duodenum. It is called the pyloric sphincter. And we also have another sphincter where the food comes out of the rectum. It is called the anal sphincter. These sphincters are loose or lax when the baby's digestive system is immature. And that is why when a baby has breastfed, we need to hold them upright and massage their back to burp them so as to cause the food or the milk to pass from the stomach to the duodenum to the small intestine all the way to the colon. And if you do not burp or massage your baby at the back, they can regurgitate the milk, and there's a likelihood they might aspirate and have aspiration pneumonia. So they're regurgitating the milk because the cardiac sphincter is not developed and therefore it doesn't close. Therefore, perhaps the baby had stomach acid and it was concentrated. Thank God they don't have enough stomach acid. But if they had stomach acid, the gastric contents would have burnt the esophagus. And you can have babies who have heartburns at an early age. But because they are not developed, the digestive system is not developed, babies do not have highly concentrated stomach acid. So that the gastric contents, even if they were to move out into the esophagus during regurgitation, or they can be passed down to the small intestine, they could not damage the intestines. So the sphincters or the valves are open, and because they are open, they enhance the breast milk to move. And there's no problem with breast milk moving out of the stomach even before 4 hours are over. Remember, for adults, food has to be confined in the stomach for at least 4 hours to allow for the churning of food in the stomach to be squeezed and kneaded by the stomach muscles. But the baby's stomach is small, does not have strong muscles, it cannot squeeze the milk. And after all, the milk does not need to be squeezed or kneaded. It's pre-digested and therefore easily enters into the bloodstream. So breast milk can be absorbed along the alimentary canal of the baby at any point. So once it's in the stomach, it can pass through the open valve in the pylorus. It can continue that way as it is being absorbed all the way to the anus. And the other way to know that the anal sphincter is not functional is because every time the baby feeds, what has been fed, if it's adequate, pushes down the rest of the gut contents, and the baby will have a bowel movement after feeding. They have a bowel movement because the anal sphincter is not functional and it opens easily. By the way, this opening easily clears the digestive system of a baby of toxins because gastric or gut contents should not remain in the system for a long time because that will predispose to the baby to formation of toxins. And for the baby to grow faster and in good health, it should not have toxins accumulating in the digestive system. That is why the sphincters we have mentioned, the three of them are always open. Now, I'm imagining a mother introducing foreign feeds to a baby whose sphincters are not functional. This can predispose the baby to aspiration, especially if the gastric contents of the food was to come out of the cardiac sphincter. You're predisposing your baby to aspiration pneumonia, and many babies have died. I have seen mothers who have come from home with their babies unconscious after aspiration because of forceful feeding. And later, when postmortems were done, it was found that the baby had aspirated gastric contents. And the mother is crying during the postmortem. And I have to face up to her to tell her, you caused the death of your own child because of forceful feeding. And that is happening. We would like to avoid this, okay? Now, the other cue we need to look at to be able to know whether your baby is ready for feeding is the concentration of the gastric chemicals, the hydrochloric acid and the enzymes. They need to be concentrated to that extent they should be able to digest fats and carbohydrates. When the baby is young, 6 months, 1 year and less, they do not have enough concentration of the enzymes and the hydrochloric acid This would mean that is not the right time to introduce foreign feeds. Now, we also need to look at another cue to be able to know whether your baby is ready for weaning. When babies are approaching weaning period, their sleep patterns change. They have increased sleep, especially at night. This would also mean their stomachs have become larger, and if they are larger, they accommodate more milk. And if they accommodate more milk, this would mean that the baby will sleep longer. When the stomachs are small, the baby has to feed frequently. And it's recommended they should feed every 3 hours because their stomachs cannot accommodate a lot, and therefore they'll wake up several times to breastfeed. But not so when their stomachs are large, especially when they are 1 year old. They will sleep longer, especially at night, because their stomachs are able to accommodate more milk, and therefore they do not need to wake up to feed. So these are the natural cues that we rely on to know if your baby is ready for weaning. And this is what every mother should look out for. Wait for your baby to give you the natural cues. Don't hurry. This is nature. You cannot be more intelligent than nature. It is by divine design. It is God who has designed that your baby will educate you on the right time to wean them. Please do not hurry. Do not be intelligent for them. They are born with that innate intelligence. They know when weaning should be done for them. Now, if any mother rushes to wean their baby, they should be aware of the following anatomy and physiology of the digestive system. All mothers should be educated on how the digestive system of a baby functions. It is not like that of an adult. There's a lot of immaturity of the digestive system in a baby, and therefore be aware of the following so that you do not rush to wean your baby. Please know that the digestive system of a baby does not mature until they have celebrated their first birthday. So why would you hurry? Remember, the following components are not mature in the digestive system of your baby. Number one, your baby has an immature gut barrier. This is a layer of cells that protects the bloodstream from invasion or from intrusion of undigested food particles or pathogens. And this gut barrier in babies is immature. So I'm imagining a mother who is introducing foreign feeds. And I told you, anytime you introduce food to the baby for the first time, it will cause inflammation of the gut. Why? Because food is foreign to the body. It behaves like an antigen. It is going to inflame the mucosal lining of the digestive system. So now you're introducing food to a digestive system that is already immature. So what will happen? You cause a leaky gut, you introduce undigested food particles into the bloodstream of your baby. And if these food particles, to make it worse, are of animal origin, then this would mean you are setting up your baby for allergies, for type 1 diabetes, for asthma, for autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis, thyroiditis, early, because the gut barrier is undeveloped. Now, it's also important to note for mothers, before you rush to wean your baby, please know that the microbiome, the gut bacteria that ought colonize the digestive system of your baby is also immature. It needs time to mature. The microbiome depends on certain nutrients in the mother's milk called oligosaccharides. And these oligosaccharides are generated by the mother's milk, but they are not digestible by the baby. They are food for the bacteria. And as long as you keep the baby breastfeeding, you feed those microbiome with the oligosaccharides necessary to help your baby to synthesize short-chain fatty acids, which are essential for brain development. The short-chain fatty acids are also essential for controlling the blood sugar levels in the baby. So this would mean if babies are not breastfed, if they are given formula feeds such as NAN or pre-NAN, then they are likely to develop type 1 diabetes or even type 2 diabetes at an early age. The role of the gut microbiome cannot be overemphasized. Gut microbiome is also responsible for priming the baby's immunity. They contribute to 80% of the baby's immunity. That's how important they are. And any baby who will be started on medical drugs early will have their microbiome killed. And that is why we want to avoid so many hospital visits when the babies are developing, because any introduction of foreign materials such as drugs will compromise the baby's gut microbiome, which is necessary for their immunity. And therefore, the longer the baby keeps away from drugs that interfere with the microbiome, the better for your baby, the better the immune system for that baby, and the better the digestion of feeds for that baby. Okay. Something else the mothers need to know before they wean their babies is, as long as your baby has milk teeth, which germinate at around 6 months or 7 months, please know, as long as your baby has the milk teeth, then they require milk for their sustenance. And as long as the mother has adequate milk, they can continue to breastfeed their babies even beyond 2 years, up to 3 years, even 4 years, even 5 years. I remember a long time ago, babies used to, children used to breastfeed, from their mothers in late years, as late as 3 years, 4 years, and even 5 years. So they could go and play with the other kids and then stop their mother to breastfeed. In fact, some would breastfeed while standing. And this gave them very good foundation. These are the children who can withstand changing weather patterns without any complications. Very strong, they could play in the rain without contracting a cold. They were very healthy babies. They could even remove their clothes while they were playing in the rain. You don't see that in modern babies. Modern babies are weak. If they are rained on, they contract a cold. They cause their mothers to worry, and they'll be rushed to hospital after because the immunity is weak. Okay, so that is how important breast milk is. So please be guided by the milk teeth, because as long as the milk teeth are there, then this means the baby should continue to be sustained on breast milk. Then please also note that a baby has immature organs of excretion, such as the liver and the kidney. And if those organs are not mature, that would mean introduction of foreign feeds, that is any other food apart from breast milk, may introduce pathogens and a lot of waste that need very healthy and mature excretory organs to be removed. So now you're giving your baby foreign feeds such as cow's milk, animal products, and after digestion of proteins, there's a lot of waste that is generated, including urea, ammonia, which needs mature excretory organs, the liver and the kidney, to be eliminated. So if you introduce such feeds before those organs are mature, then I'll challenge you to tell me, how are you going to eliminate the waste generated by the food materials you have introduced into your baby? So wait for the organs of excretion to mature. And this may take up to 1 year for them to mature. Something else you need to know, that do not introduce foreign feeds, any other foodstuffs apart from breast milk, when your baby's stomach is still small. Babies are very small stomachs, and small stomachs mean the quality of muscle is also poor. The muscles for churning the food are not developed. They are weak. And if they are weak, how do you expect them to digest ugali or porridge, which has been mixed with margarine? It's so difficult. Churning of food in the stomach causes inflammation, injury to the stomach walls, and you do not want to introduce injuries in a baby at an early age. That is why most mothers, when they introduce complementary feeding at 6 months, their babies lose weight, because digestion of food causes inflammation, causes loss of energy, also causes exhaustion for the baby. So for that reason, these babies will lose weight when they're given complementary feeds other than breast milk. The mothers should also be aware that babies have slow peristalsis. Peristalsis is the movement of the bowels to allow food after it has been digested to be moved out of the digestive system, out of the anus as feces. Now, babies have slow peristalsis because they have weak muscles. And that's the reason why some mothers will come and say, "Oh, Daktari, my baby has not passed through for the last 4 days or 5 days." You shouldn't worry. As long as the baby is feeding on breast milk and they are not irritable and they are sleeping adequately, there's no reason to worry. It's good to understand that the movement of the bowels is slow in babies than in adults because the muscles are still weak. So imagining a situation where the baby has weak muscles, slow peristalsis, and then you're introducing carbohydrates, you're introducing potatoes and ugali in the alimentary canal of the baby. So you're going to cause constipation, you're going to cause exhaustion, you're going to introduce undigested food particles into the bloodstream. You are setting up your baby for chronic diseases, including autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis. Okay. The other thing mothers who intend to wean their babies should know is that babies have limited ability to digest fats and carbohydrates. The reason is they do not have enough bile, they don't have enough pancreatic enzymes to be able to digest the carbohydrates and the fats. Okay. And for that reason, we should not introduce complementary feeds until the baby's digestive system is mature. Now, may I conclude by giving you the importance of breast milk, because this is a basic, it's the foundational nutrition of babies. It is so important to babies, it's also important to mothers. One of the benefits of breast milk is it is dynamic food. The mother starts by generating colostrum, which has a lot of antibodies, living cells, enzymes that are crucial for the baby's immunity and overall health. So it gives the baby the first energy stimulus. Okay, very important. So later, the mother will produce light milk, and at this juncture, it's important to remember that babies should latch on the breast for not less than 30 minutes to be able to get the hind milk. The hind milk contains a lot of fat for brain development. And therefore, mothers should not hurry to put away their babies from breastfeeding. The longer they stay on the breast, the better the quality of milk they are going to breastfeed. Okay. Another thing we need to learn about breast milk, it's perfectly balanced. There is nothing in nature or no nutrition of human creation that can equate to breast milk. Perfect balance. We have calcium in the right proportions, boron in the right proportions, zinc, sodium, potassium, magnesium. All elements are in the right proportions. It cannot be compared with formula feeds. It cannot be compared with NAN or pre-NAN. The food designed by God for babies is excellent and cannot be matched with food of human creation. It has the right proportions of anything meant for the growth and development of the baby. So please understand that breast milk cannot be replaced. But in case the mother does not have milk, or in the event that the breastfeeding mother has died, then the other more preferable milk a baby can be fed on is goat milk. Okay? Because cow milk will introduce allergies early, and formula feeds are also associated with allergies. Okay. Breast milk also has antibodies, living tissues, enzymes, and it's also curative. In fact, if your baby has inflammation anywhere in the body, whether there are bloodshot eyes, whether inflammation is anywhere on the skin, you just need to put a few drops of breast milk, and that is medicine enough. Okay? You don't have to go to the chemists or rush to hospital when you have a pharmacy in the form of breast milk. Okay. Breast milk is also pre-digested and therefore suitable for a baby who is inactive. It is pre-digested because it can easily be absorbed into the body. So it's the best nutrition for an immobile baby. Remember, if you are to give any other food apart from breast milk, the baby has to be active. But for breast milk, it does not require the baby to be active. In fact, they can breastfeed and go to sleep. Breast milk also has sleeping hormones. And these are the hormones that cause the baby to be drowsy while they're breastfeeding. Very important. Because after breastfeeding, the baby should go to sleep so that they can use the milk for their development. It is not so with other feeds. Other feeds will cause exhaustion, lack of sleep. Wow, how great is breast milk? And we thank God because this is a divine design. Wonderful. Breast milk is also has a lot of fat for brain development. There's a difference between breast milk and between human milk and cow's milk. Human milk has a lot of fat, less proteins. Cow's milk has more proteins, less fat. And this helps us to know that God is interested in the intelligence of the baby more than the stamina or the body build. Whereas in animals, they need proteins for build because they need to run away from predators. And that is why any herbivore animal, such as a buffalo, a cow, a rhino, once it has given birth, the calves, once they have their first feeding of the animal's milk, they are strong enough to start running. It is not so with a human baby who depends on the mother for a longer time. And therefore, breast milk, human milk is best suited for brain development. And we would also appreciate to have a more intelligent baby than a heavy baby. Okay. The other importance of breast milk, which we should not miss for the mothers, is it's a good birth control method. It provides what we call lactational amenorrhea birth control method. So as long as the mother is exclusively breastfeeding and breastfeeding as frequently as possible, breastfeeding offers what we call family planning, a birth control method, at least for the first 6 months. Another important function of breast milk is that as long as the mother is breastfeeding, they're able to prevent diseases such as breast cancer and diabetes and heart diseases and allergies. So breastfeeding also protects the mother from diseases. It takes away the pressure and the inflammation from the body. Okay? It reduces oxidative stress, which is a major cause of many chronic diseases. So breastfeeding is good also for the mother, given it prevents diseases. Now, during the postpartum period, breastfeeding is good because it improves uterine contraction. In fact, after a mother has delivered, the speed of uterine contraction, or what we call involution of the uterus, is dependent on the frequency of breastfeeding. Okay, so that is how important it is. Breastfeeding, as we said, also provides oligosaccharides, which are nutrition for the gut microbiome. And this gut microbiome is important because it provides 80% of the immunity of the baby. Wow. Breast milk is also good because, as opposed to food, it's readily available. It's accessible all the time. So there's no hassle in looking for it. So the mother can easily expose the breast, start feeding the baby immediately. It is that convenient. That milk is also sterile. By sterility, I mean it is free from pathogens, as opposed to foreign feeds that the mother makes. You have to observe a very high degree of sterility or hygiene, and it's not always observed. In fact, it's extremely difficult to ensure 100% hygiene for any other food other than breast milk. Including the utensils you're using for feeding, they have water particles that could be contaminated, the food itself could be contaminated, and even the mode of feeding, because as you feed, the food is exposed, it will be contaminated. It is not so with breast milk, which is confined and only comes out when the baby's mouth is latched on the breast. So it protects the baby from pathogens or anything that might damage the mature digestive system. So that is how important breast milk is. So in conclusion, let's go back to our starting question, and it formed the topic for today. When should you wean your baby? And we have concluded that the decision to wean the baby does not come from the mother. It comes from natural cues that the baby gives. So wait for them. Dear couple who is nursing a baby, wait for the baby to give you natural cues to wean them. They are more intelligent than you are. They are more intelligent than the doctors. I know for most mothers, you depend upon knowledge given to you by healthcare providers. There's a book called The Mother's and Child Handbook, as you can see on the camera. Now, this handbook stipulates at the back page where we have the long leaflet that mothers can introduce foreign feeds other than breast milk when the baby is at 6 months of age. Okay, so they are saying you can introduce milk and other animal products. And just to be very clear here, you know, this information is provided from medical books that are prone to be revised every 5 years or less. And I do not believe that this information can override the natural cues, nature by divine design, because this information is prone to be revised or to change because it's provided by people. But the information given by God through the baby in its nature is that we need to wait for the natural cues that we have discussed above to determine the period at which we should wean our babies. The 6-month period, because this is what most mothers are quoting, is not an old concept. It started a few years ago. During the HIV crisis, the HIV positive mothers were being advised to exclusively breastfeed their kids for 6 months and then stop. Is after stopping the breastfeeding, they were easily identified, and this caused stigma. So any mother who stopped breastfeeding their baby at 6 months and they were introducing other feeds could easily have been identified as an HIV positive mother. Now, to get rid of this stigma, the World Health Organization issued a blanket statement to all mothers that they should exclusively breastfeed their kids for 6 months and later introduce complementary feeds. This was meant to cover up the HIV positive mothers. Now today, because that statement has not been revised, I still see mothers who are healthy, they are not HIV positive, but they continue with this trend of weaning their babies at 6 months. Now, this is wrong. So as long as the conditions are constant, there is no hurry for weaning. And by constant, I mean if the mother is not sick, does not have a breast disease, or the mother is still alive, please let's continue breastfeeding our babies. As long as you have the milk, breastfeed them until they are old enough to walk away from you. Thank you so much. Please like, share, and subscribe to make these presentations available to you in future. Be blessed.